For every revolutionary decade in our history, an iconic Ray-Ban style marks the moment. Now the story continues with Essilor Eyezen lenses, advanced single-vision lenses designed to relax and protect your eyes. They reduce visual fatigue from digital screens. Pair the most wanted Ray-Ban frame with Essilor Eyezen lenses for iconic style and relaxed vision. Ask your Boots opticians for more information.
Hello and welcome to See What's Possible, the podcast brought to you by Boots Opticians that meets with some of the nation's most inspiring sports stars, media personalities and performers. We discover the secrets behind their phenomenal achievements and the mindset they instill to battle against all odds. I'm your host, Myleene Klass, and today we're looking at a subject very close to my heart, women's healthcare, and in particular miscarriage, as well as the menopause and certain cancers. All have been shrouded in secrecy, sidelined and, well, woefully underfunded. My guest today, first up, we have Anna Whitehouse, author, presenter and founder of online platform Mother Pukka. She's also an OG of the parenting influencer world, as well as a fervent campaigner. Her motto, feminism with a slice of filth. Also joining us, Dr. Philippa Kaye. Now, Dr. Philippa has penned books on a variety of hot health topics, especially around the menopause, as well as Doctors Get Cancer Too, revealing her moving story of being diagnosed with bowel cancer in her 30s. Now, we do need to add that any health advice on this podcast is general and not meant to replace personalised health information from your doctor or healthcare professionals. Girls, I feel like this has been long overdue. We've been like almost planning it as a coffee morning, but
or therapy session.
It
could go either way.
Session.
That's what friends do.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we all of our paths cross daily, weekly.
Yeah.
And yet now we get to be here together. But we are weirdly bound by, I suppose it's quite a dark connection.
But a powerful one.
We were just saying, weren't we? Between us, I've lost 4 babies. 4 babies.
Yeah, 5.
5 babies. That's
So
some dark math.
That is an astounding 13 between 3 women.
Yeah, that's a lot.
13 babies between us. Gosh, when you let that sink. However, within that, all of us have managed to find a way to turn pain into power or into purpose, because the reason we have this connection as well is not only the darkness of losing 13 babies between us, but we've all either campaigned or marched on Parliament or used the platforms that we have to make sure that legislation, everything is changed to not let it happen to our babies. Anna, I always find myself in a room with you, which is always really reassuring.
Yeah. You're like a maternal hug in human form, just like that person you need to see and you're like, oh, there she is, and your central nervous system kind of calms. I think because you don't have to put a face on, there are, I think, increasingly just groups of women who have gone through pain, who have gone through some of the biggest common denominators of female sort of trauma. And on the other side of that, when you do maybe have a baby and it does work out, the complete exaltation and devastation in the same sentence. So kind of you almost cut everything else out and you go, oh, hello, friend, because we have experienced and walked the same paths and walked through the same fires to kind of get there. So when you get in the same room as those women, you're like, okay, and breathe.
And that's how I feel when I've seen you.
Yeah,
I know
same.
I know that we're going to get things done.
Yeah.
I also know we'll be home in time for tea time and the kids.
I was saying earlier before I came on this podcast that, when people see the facade of like dusted off in a vague suit, glasses on, ready to go, can see, just basically being able to see. And then what they don't see is the precursor to that, which is wiping off petty flu from suit, depositing 5 children in different receptacles.
I get to the end of a surgery day. I used to get to the end of surgery day and someone would say, you've got a bit of baby sick on your shoulder. And you're like, lapels of glory, carry on.
The thing is, darling, I'd have been there with a wet wipe ready to go. I'd have been like,
I wish, why didn't patient number 1 say it? It's always the last word of the day.
God.
It's true. But yeah, you find those women and they say it takes a village, but actually I think sometimes you have to build that village.
Well, that's quite right, actually. This for me is the village, and it is really reassuring to see you. I'm devastated for your losses and your experiences and all the things that have happened, but we didn't hide away from it. If anything, it sort of galvanized us. We built the village, the community, and it feels more so than ever, because it certainly wasn't there when I experienced my first, even my second miscarriage. I feel that there's a momentum, there's a noise, there's an unapologetic fervour, if you like, for the direction we're going in now. It makes people so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it should do. It's the saddest subject in the whole world.
I think that as a society, we really struggle with the idea of grief. And there's so many different kinds of grief. But it is a universal experience. Everybody will experience grief in some way, right? Be that the loss of a parent or a friend or a breakup of a relationship or whatever it might be. And yet we don't speak about it. And I have patients come in who say, I lost my parent or I lost whatever and I can't sleep and I can't eat, make it go away. And I say, that doesn't make you human, right? We have to live through these things. And yet for something that is as universal as grief, we don't talk about it enough. And the reason that we don't do that is, one, because we're scared of it, and two, because it hurts us. When your friends are hurting, we feel a tiny part of that pain and it is unbearable, so we try and fix it. But actually, the way through is often around accepting that if you love something, if you have a relationship with someone, if you are lucky enough to experience love, then you experience grief. And it's not the price. I feel very disrespectful saying that because the Queen said that. But it's part of the loving, right? And so I just think that as a society, we have to get better about talking about grief because we all go through it. But that uncomfortableness, that silence that drops, that's what makes us feel so alone. But actually, if we could just be allowed to be in the bog, that in itself is really healing.
I feel that so deeply because I remember when I went through miscarriage the first time, my mum was of the generation that would hide away in avocado-coloured bathrooms, you know, putting doilies on dining tables, you know, when the avocado pear was a new exotic fruit, and would paper over the cracks of that grief and that pain and would crack on and continue smiling. And I think we are the generation that's putting a halt to that, to women's grief, to women's pain. We are going to scream viscerally, loudly, maternally from the rooftops that this is what generations of women have had to sort of carry. So I feel that really deeply because when I went through it and started actually loudly grieving, my mum started loudly grieving what she had gone through and that she had lost 2 babies too. And I think that that generational kind of trauma is also something to go, right, we've got to hold that group of women too.
For so long, there has been this idea that to be a woman is to live with pain. And that might be period pain or endometriosis, or you must go through childbirth and not have any pain relief. You know, to be a woman is to put up with pain, and that is just wrong. It's just wrong. We don't have to put up with, we have to experience certain kinds of pain in life, but there is so much pain that we don't, and that we need to stand up about it. And people will often say, you know, isn't it frustrating to be a women's health campaigner, be it from menopause or miscarriage or whatever else? You know, doesn't it feel like you're not getting anywhere? Isn't that frustrating? And I often say actually that what we're fighting is years of women being valued for what they look like and their ability to bear children. And it's actually only in the past 70 years or so that we've had the contraceptive pill and HRT and the Abortion Act. That's not a long time in the sort of the millennia of humanity. For stuff to change medically, we need to have an evidence base. And for evidence to happen, we need to have research. And for research to happen, we need to raise awareness. That's where we are.
Well, you know how
right
I feel
at the
about
beginning.
that. Exactly. We were literally just talking about this.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of platitudes and people make the right gestures in our direction, but we don't want the gestures anymore.
Yeah,
we want the data. We want actual effect. And I want results so that my children don't ever have to experience things the way that we've experienced
On a
them.
really base level, I only heard the other day that women were allowed to get a credit card in 1973.
That's right.
And when you keep getting shocked, remove almost, this kind of Handmaid's Tale era.
Women were only mandated to be in clinical trials in America from 1993.
1993.
So everything that was directed for us was tested on a man or not tested at all.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why we're overlooked.
From seatbelts to stab vests to medicine.
You're right.
You are not simply a smaller man. You are somebody with the impact of female hormones and everything else. And so there's an awful lot of work to be done.
And we're going to put it all on your shoulders.
Thank you
a woman
so
who
much.
needs to carry this to the end. If you could fix that, Dr. Philippa.
Okay, great.
But
that would
that's
be
the terrifying
great.
thing. We sit here as campaigners. We sit here as women who've been through some extraordinary experiences that have very much shaped and changed us. And we sit here as mums, as women, and as people who didn't necessarily get any of the guidance or the support, which hopefully we are now changing around. But where do you even begin? It is a good question. There is so much. You talk about the invisible women. I do think that every time I'm putting the seatbelts on my children and you're putting the car seats in, and you think that they were never designed for us. They were designed around men.
When your bobble hurts on the headrest because it wasn't designed for somebody with a hair bobble at the back, and actually women's heads will go up and go, yeah, if I've got a clip in, that hurts. I think that we start actually with the talking, because we know really clearly when you help one woman, she goes and helps a bunch of other women, right? And that there is a power in that. And I often say to patients, you do have to advocate for yourself. And I never worry about someone that walks in holding a bit of the newspaper, because either they're going to teach me something and I'm going to go away and look it up, which is fine. You want a doctor to go away and look stuff up. Or I'm going to be able to say, actually, I know about that and that is or isn't correct, right? But advocating yourself doesn't make you a bolshy, bossy woman. And bossy is a term that I absolutely can't stand, because it is never applied to men. It is only ever applied to little girls.
They're leaders. He's direct.
But they don't. So they don't say bossy, do they?
Yeah,
they say
assertive.
Right.
It's
direct.
the same with the mutton dressed as lamb for women when they get older, and silver-haired foxes for men.
Right.
You're like, why did we get mutton and you got fox?
So my point is that I think it starts with the talking and with the advocating for yourself, and an awareness though. And when I talk about politics, and when we've all been to the Houses of Parliament and have these conversations, I start with the money. So if we're talking about menopause, let's talk about the economic cost of the brain drain of women leaving work. Let's talk about the economic cost of women choosing to work part-time, and let's put it in a way that people understand in a different way. But I think that there being a lot of work to do doesn't mean that we shy away. We just, roll our sleeves up and start. You know that.
Well, you know it right back. I look at, I'm certainly not putting, anybody in their lanes, but when you look at the group of how we sort of bleed into each other's campaigns, but I look at what you've done for menopause and talking about cancers in women and all of the health implications that you cover, and how you look after women returning to work and then crossing over into miscarriage and so forth. We're all sort of in the same arena, but specialising too. And I look to you guys. I really do. So, well, look, and let me come to you, because our paths have crossed many times.
Yeah.
You're a busy lady. Your family setup alone is extremely busy. So you've got a blended family, like myself.
Yeah, we've got probably a very similar setup. I have to sort of do head counts now when we go out the door.
Number off.
And we've got sort of 2 guinea pigs somewhere in the midst. When you just think, how can I make my life worse? I'll introduce 2 more rodents to the mix. The car that we have is essentially a school minibus to transport our family. But yes, a very different Disney happily ever after. I think we were the generation that sort of grew up on fairy tales and Disney endings that were sort of boy meets girl and rides off into the sunset. Well, boy met girl, got divorced, remarried, had another child, and blended a family. So I need I would like a Disney film that goes even beyond Anna and Elsa, to really recognise, obviously talking about my family and obviously in a similar way to your family, couldn't stand the terminology like, broken home, divorcee. I'm like, no, it's a reformed home. I'm reforming my home. I think there's so many negative connotations about, if we're talking about pain, translating what is key pain, core pain, divorce, into something like lighter and different, but taking all those broken components and reforming them in a slightly sort of chaotic, haphazard way into something I would argue even more beautiful. So yeah, that's kind of where
my
I've got
neighbour's German, and I was explaining the family setup, and she didn't say broken or even blended. She said patchwork.
That's
and I
beautiful.
love that. You're a patchwork family.
Do you know in Hungary they say mosaic family?
Yeah, I love
mosaics.
that.
It's those broken pieces put back together again.
Or making something more, or the combination of little pieces making something more beautiful.
Well, that's the Japanese art.
Or the kitsugi.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I think about physical stars, or my physical stars from my cancer treatment.
That's a really nice way to put it. So I don't know if you know kintsugi, where if something is broken, you then stick it back together and then highlight the break with gold paint.
Yeah, because you're saying you have value afterwards.
Do you know what? That's something that I have never known the word for it. But do you know when something really sits with you? Because when I went through divorce, when I went through miscarriage, when I went through postnatal depression, a lot of these kind of scars that women carry, I thought at sort of 40, that would be the point where you'd be in some kind of crisis, like midlife crisis, like all of these scars. I got tattoos when I got divorced. I've got a really depressing one that I want to get rid of called It's Time We Dance with the Truth on my arm, which my sister asks to see every so often when she's feeling a bit down. She's like, can I see the awful tattoo? But as women, we have these scars on our body.
Who took you?
No one. I needed a better friend in my Hinge era. But I think we all have these, and you know this more than anyone, I think, in terms of as a doctor in the medical profession, we all bear scars. And I think historically, I thought those scars would be like we said earlier, like sort of ugly, to hide, to put away. And actually at 40, divorced, tattooed, C-section scars, that scar's been opened 3 times to have 3 babies. What I call it my little bag for life because it wasn't quite put back together properly last time. What I deemed as ugly is very much at 40 become beautiful.
So from a medical perspective, scar tissue is stronger. And I remember really clearly after one of my first cancer surgeries, and only just having been home and sort of still dressing my own wounds, and that my son came in and he said, you're going to throw away your bikinis, mummy? And I said, why? And he said, well, you can't go on holiday and wear a bikini, can you now? Because I have been cut quite literally from under my breasts all the way down and various others in between. And I said, no, darling, I can wear whatever I like and it's fine. And he left the room and I cried because I did not believe that, because I thought that they showed my weakness and I thought that they showed how my body had let me down. And I would say it was probably 2 years later that I put on a bikini and I thought, actually what they show is I survived. This body grew those 3 babies and they came out of that section start, which was opened a 4th time to take my appendix out 6 weeks after my first. They went in that way. But these scars show that I survived and that I'm still here. I'm proud of those. And so if you have a problem looking at that on the beach, then that's your problem, not mine. And then you go to a beach and nobody cares. Nobody cares. But your scars are physically stronger than the rest of your skin. And having that understanding in my head that actually they show how strong I am is really quite healing.
Do you know what I love about what you've just said is something that I have often not done, is you almost wait till you're ready to say you're confident about scars or something that maybe that wasn't a success in your life. The things that we see as sort of negative, which actually are the things that are sort of a rich tapestry of who you are. Mm. And I love that you said to your son, I am wearing this bikini, even though you weren't quite ready mentally to do that. And I think we don't do that enough, is actually stand in it. Because the more you say it, the more you do it, the more you actually become it and feel it. And you repeat it and you look in the mirror because they're seeing you as the blueprint of who they want to be. That's incredibly painful and also powerful.
Also, I think the fact that I see you are a doctor, I see you as quite indelible when it comes to anything to do with bodies and image, because you know the body inside out and every which way, and you know the strengths of it. But then, of course, you're a woman, you're human, you're a mum. Why wouldn't you feel that vulnerability?
And some of the things that and the messages that we've all grown up with around body image are really hard to shake. And that's often why people get stuck about certain things. They get stuck about certain forms of contraception or about HRT, because there are these messages that they have been told that have gone in really deep, even if they're not necessarily aware of them. And that's true of all parts of sort of womanhood and motherhood and what are we supposed to be. And I think that sometimes, for all that I understand about how the body works, there's an even bigger amount of stuff that we don't understand about how the body works. And that's always fascinating to me. But it's that balance of, for me, doctor and patient and human, and how we get all those three things to interact without breaking any of them.
So let me take you to your late 30s, and you have your cancer diagnosis. So which part kicks in? The doctor part?
Doctor.
Not the human part?
No. So I remember very clearly, there are some moments that are sort of flashed on your brain. And I remember that he put the scope in and I turned to look at the screen because the doctor was interested. And I saw my cancer on the screen. I had bowel cancer. And I looked across to the surgeon, and as his eyes came up, he didn't need to say anything. I knew. I absolutely knew. And I knew what was going to happen next. And the next thing that he did was that he tried to tattoo it from the inside so that when he was coming from the outside, he'd be able to see it. And I had two thoughts. The first thought was, my mum's going to be furious. I've got my first tattoo. And my second was, how are we going to tell my kids? But the doctor overrode, because I went straight to, what's the plan, right? And actually in that moment, when you're taught what's next, that's both helpful to be able to be clinical like that. And the language that they were speaking is my language, you know, I understand all of that. And now that I find comforting, but not being able to turn off the what's next is very difficult. And that balance of doctor and patient is something that I still very much struggle with. And I went from that colonoscopy straight to the CT scanner to have another something, and then another image and another image. And I had told my husband on the way, and I said to him, wait, don't tell the children, wait. And I was sitting naked in the changing room. And there's something about the fact that I remember really clearly that I was naked in that changing room, that other layer of vulnerability. And I rang my best friend, who is a child psychotherapist, and I said to her, in the way of the village, I said to her, I need you to be a psychotherapist for just 1 minute and not my friend. Tell me how I tell. And I named my kids, they're 4, 7, and 11. Tell me how I go home and tell them that I have cancer. And God bless her, she did it. But like the village, I put the phone down. I rang her husband and I said, I've just told that I've got cancer. Go pick her up. Put the phone down and left. And that balance of doctor, patient, mother has always been there, because cancer comes for every part of you. It comes for all of those roles. And that might be wife and mother and sister and friend and doctor. And it comes for all of them. And it tries to take over all of them, because everybody straight away just reduces you to that. And you're not just that, even though how all-encompassing it is. But I think that being a patient changed me fundamentally as a doctor. And I can know the one moment that was, and I might need the tissues myself, and that was that it was in ICU in the middle of the night and things were going badly wrong. And I looked at my own heart monitor and thought, oh dear. And the nurse, because when you're in ICU you have one-to-one nurses, she was right there and she called the doctor. And in that moment, the doctor came and he sat on my bed and he held my hand and he said, excuse my French, you're having a really shit time. And that was what I needed more than anything. And actually, he must have already given the order for various drugs. Things were happening. Other stuff was happening. And clearly they fixed it. But in that moment, he saw the human in me. And so what I do now is when patients come in and they are having a difficult time, is that I try very hard not to do what I've been taught to do as a doctor, which is try to fix it. But I say, you're having a really difficult time, I see you. and you see their eyes come up to meet yours, and you see that actually what we need so often is not to be fixed. We just need someone to lie down in the bog and say, I'm here. And so being a patient has changed me as a doctor, and being a doctor changed me as a patient. Pros and cons.
It's kind of like the difference between empathy and sympathy. I remember going through miscarriage, and, you know, it's been said across the internet, across the globe, you know, everybody has that response with, well, at least you could get pregnant.
Yes. Or at least you've got another.
At least. And all I needed was not, like, you know, you said, some utopian vision of at least you can get pregnant, because you don't know if I can get pregnant again. And I don't need that false hope. What I do need is exactly what you said, not to be fixed, but somebody to sit next to me. Because the difference between sympathy and empathy is empathy sits with you, sympathy says at least. At least you can. And nobody needs that in that moment. Sometimes from a doctor, friend, a mother, a father, you just need somebody to sit in the hole with you and come down that ladder.
Who sat with you during your miscarriages? How did you come through this?
So coming back to my mum, actually, she had never told me she'd miscarried. And I went through the third miscarriage, and it was I remember it really well, these details. Like, you remember being naked in the moment before telling your children about a cancer diagnosis. And I remember it was 4:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, and all I could think of was, I need to retile the kitchen floor. It was just a need to do something that wasn't think about not having a baby. And my mum was there, and I said, Mum, do you think B&Q's open still? And she looked at me, and she knew how much I was struggling. And she said, I'm sure it is. And she looked it up. She goes, yeah, they're open till 5. And without question, my mum, it's going to make me cry, my mum came with me to B&Q. We bought tiles, we bought grouting, and we retiled that kitchen floor till 5 a.m. It was just two women from different generations, side by side, working and crying and grieving. And that was when she told me that she had gone through everything I had gone through. The first time that actually she'd been listened to was by her daughter. And I think, much like you, Myleene, we've spoken about this, the only reason you campaign, the only reason you're an activist, those words can be completely like detached from a human, because the human bit is, I cannot allow my daughter to be grieving decades after something so seismic happening to her. And so we were just two women retiling a kitchen floor till 5 a.m.
I think often that
processing.
What an image that is, of building something.
But there often people will say, oh, you know, you're distracting, or you are dissociating. Actually, all of these defense mechanisms have a reason and a purpose. If you hold on to any of them for too long, they become not helpful. But actually, what your brain is saying is not now. Not right now. Right now, I want to do something else. And even that tiny amount of time makes a difference. And that presence of someone who says, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to put my body in the room, right? How very powerful that is. And I understand really clearly why our friends and our family find it so hard, because of the transference, because of the pain that they feel of seeing us in pain, whatever our pain may be. But if that's how bad you feel, imagine how we feel.
Do you know who
Put your body in the room.
Do you know who helped the most was my 4-year-old daughter. Because when I went through miscarriage, I was picking her up from nursery, and I had to go into the staff toilet, and she had to come with me because I'd picked her up. And I was crying what she described, the black tears. And she said, Mummy, why are you crying the black tears? And I said, sometimes through no fault of the mummy, she knew I was pregnant, the baby doesn't stay in. And I made it very clear, through no fault of the mummy. And I started crying again, and she just casually just went, well, can't the doctor just put another one in? And I was like, how do I get around this one? I was like, no. And she said, can the next one be a boy? And it was very, very like, and it shook me out of that moment of kind of grief. And I think it's really important to recognise something I've absolutely seen in the way you've described things. I know completely has happened to Myleene in the world that she's in, has happened to probably every single person listening to this podcast, is you don't always have the privilege of stopping. You don't always have the privilege of
and it's both
waking up and going, today's a day I'm going to be
Yes.
in bed. Today's a day I'm going to shut out the world. No, shoes on, coat on, school continues.
Do you know, it's really funny you said that, because you've just brought me back to, it was my second miscarriage, and it was Ava, who I remember hiding under the duvet. I need 2 more seconds to get myself together, because I just don't know how I'm going to get it. It's that it's just that shock to your body when you wake up.
Yeah.
You realise you're still in your nightmare.
Yeah.
And she just got this recorder out.
Yeah.
I started playing it, and it was like this recorder sort of snuck in under the duvet, and I was just like, I've got to get up.
Yeah.
It's time.
It's that time again.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the luxury, let's say, to just sort
But
of...
that is very helpful in some ways, as long as
I
you're
don't know
allowed
recorders.
to do both. I mean, literally, so when I came home and we told our 3 kids at the top of the stairs, and the 11-year-old had been reading a book where the mummy had died of cancer, so had lots of questions straight away. You're not going to die, are you, mummy? Couldn't answer that one.
Well, what did you say?
I said I'd started with that there is a ball of bad cells called cancer in my tummy, and the doctors have to cut it out, and I'm going to have some medicine that's going to poison any that's left behind. And so when he said, and it came up quite a lot of times actually, I don't want you to die, mummy, promise me you won't die. And that I stopped promising my children anything. I stopped promising that I'd pick them up from school. I stopped promising anything because you couldn't guarantee any of it. And I said, I can't promise you that. But what I can promise you is I'm going to do every single thing in my power to not. And that there are people who love you, and that there will be people who will be here for you either way. But I promise that I won't. And then I cried like this. And he cried. And actually, that's okay to be vulnerable like that together. The 7-year-old opened his arms, came over, recoiled when he was about 6 inches from my face and said, you can't catch cancer, can you? And the 4-year-old asked what was for lunch. And that really was just showed sort of their ages at the time, and how these seismic things happen to people. And life still happens.
Do you know what? Through divorce, when my ex and I told the children we were separating, my eldest asked lots of questions about the practicalities of where they're going to live. You know, where's Tilly the dinosaur going to be, at mummy's house or daddy's house? My youngest, much like your youngest, just went, okay, no, that makes sense. Can I watch Mamma Mia 2 now?
Yeah.
And it was the various stages of understanding, I think, something quite seismic.
How did you explain to your children that you'd had miscarriages? Did they know that there were babies on the way?
Only my daughter in that moment at nursery, because it was happening while she was there. And I think I'm not of the belief that you hide things from your children. She knew I was pregnant, so I articulated, and I wish my mum had, that having a baby, you don't just go from A to B. There's sometimes, rerouting, diversions, a cul-de-sac you hit.
That would have been the gift, because these PSHE lessons, or the one lesson that they give you in Catholic school, that if you look at a boy, you'll get pregnant. And then you realise, I've been looking at this boy for some time and it's just not happening.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't really need a home economics class telling me how to make a lasagna. I would have actually liked to understand how, periods work, the women miscarry.
And
Both are important.
Endometriosis happens.
I think that there is not a right way to tell children. And, I was just saying my kids were 4, 7 and 11 when I had cancer. They were a lot younger when I had miscarriages. And so what I might have mentioned or told my then 3-year-old son versus when he was 7 would be entirely different. And I think the first thing that you do is that there is no right or wrong, and it depends really on your child and what you're comfortable sharing. But you break it down into its most simple form, which is, Mummy had a baby in a tummy, and sometimes those babies don't develop, and sometimes those babies come out like in a big period. And then you wait, because you'll either get nothing and a question 3 days later, or a barrage of questions. But at that point, you need to be led by your child, not by you. Because at that point, it's about their process, their grief, their whatever. And just as when it's about ours, we want it to be about us, and we need our friends to give their stuff about us to someone else, in that moment, it's about what does your child need. And interestingly for children is you'll often get the questions a few days later because they've been thinking about it. And then I would really avoid euphemisms. So in the same way, Grandad went to sleep. I've then got a child who's coming into surgery because they're too afraid to go to bed, right? So actually Grandad's body stopped working and he couldn't poo and he couldn't wee and he couldn't eat anymore and his body stopped working and he died, right? We use the words and we are very clear because none of this is stuff to be ashamed of. And when they say you mustn't tell your children, you shouldn't tell your children, it feeds into that shame. What we're trying not to do is give our children our grief, but allow them to experience theirs. And to allow them to experience theirs sometimes means that, as I said, you cry next to them and that's okay, but you still have to give them facts because without facts, there's a void. And into that void, we fill it with, depending on the age of that child, what we call fairy tale thinking, where they believe in the power of the Disney princess, but also maybe it was something they did. I said, I wish that baby wasn't coming out of your tummy. I wish I didn't have to share my room. Did I do it? And they believe that they had, and that is a developmental stage. But into the void, they will fill it, or someone else will fill it. So put some facts in there, and then wait.
One thing I've done, in a nutshell, that's helped a lot, in summary to that, is every night that I brush my daughter's hair with them facing away from me, I'm brushing their hair and I say, are there any other knots to untangle in your day? And the first 2 or 3 times that I did it, there was nothing. And then the third time was, yes, so, how did you feel when, you and daddy divorced? Like, how did you feel? And she'd never asked me that because we were so concerned about how the children would feel. And it was in that moment, a moment between a mother and a daughter, much like you do with your partner in a car when you're driving, you have your best conversations because you're not looking in someone's eye. You reveal so much more about yourself when you're not under the glare of someone's kind of gaze, I suppose. And so we untangle the knots in their days as well as their hair. And that has helped me find a little punctuation point in my day to process grief, to process joy, to process silliness, but a time and a moment for me and her.
So we call it shoulder to shoulder talking.
I love that. Just getting them in the car, just driving around the block, getting the chat. And I have to ask you about one of the quotes that you've said. First, I have to double check you said it because you never know. It did make me chuckle. You said the women are now expected to bring home the bacon and cook it. I mean, that really resonated with me. I can't cook, but I love the sentiment behind it.
Daddy Pig, we're coming for you. I think there's this notion, and I think we've heard it over and again, that, somehow women seemingly want it all. And we've dispelled that. There was a notion of like the noughties, 90s. I absolutely don't want it all. No. I don't think anyone feels good after an all-you-can-eat buffet. All is not good. But I do want my something. My family is my everything. My children are my everything. But my purpose, my drive, the ABCs I learned, the GCSEs I did, the A-levels I did. It doesn't matter what your journey is, but that's my something. And just because I had a baby doesn't mean my something gets disbanded, pushed away, that I get written out, written off, made, I think, like we've discussed, invisible. But yeah, we are the generation. No, we didn't want it all, but good God, are we doing it all? We are earning the bacon. And we are cooking the bacon.
It's a lot.
And we are carrying the invisible load of form filling, ferrying, party planning, medical managing, sandwich crust cutting. So actually, all of the ings.
I think that there's 2 things here. I wish at school, and I went to a really, really good school that was all about you are strong, intelligent women, you can do whatever you want. I wish someone would have said, you cannot have 10 out of 10 in every area of your life. That you can have 10 out of 10 in your career and you might struggle in another bit. Or that it's okay to have 6 out of 10 in every area. That's okay. and you don't have to be perfect in all of them. And that how long it took all of me and my school friends to actually realise that that was okay. But as women take on, what's happened is not that women are sharing the load. They are simply taking on more. And until your partner, your colleagues take up an equal amount, there is not equality
But what
in
do you
terms
do
of
if they
what's being
can't?
done.
So I don't want to think I can do it better. I do definitely get to the point where I'm like, oh, do you know what? By the time I explain it to you, I might as well have just done it myself.
Well, so there's two.
Am I creating the problem
There
myself?
so
I'm perpetuating
I may
it.
have had years of therapy and still struggle with it, but
Oh, well, then can I have some of your therapy,
Our
please?
way is not necessarily the only way. And we might think it's the better way, but it's not necessarily the only way. And it was when I knew I was going into hospital for 2 weeks and I wrote out my brain, right? And I dumped it out. I was like, on a Tuesday at 5 o'clock, you will do blah, 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 blah. And my mum went, it doesn't matter if he does the laundry this day or this day. It doesn't matter as long as the laundry gets done. And it doesn't matter if they have more fish fingers as long as they're fed. And an acceptance of our way doesn't have to be. But I think that as frustrating as it is and as slower as it is to explain, if we don't, we are not only making it worse for ourselves, but also I am not showing my daughter and my sons about sharing the burden. So even if I can't fix it necessarily for me, and I have a great husband who I'm very grateful for, who does an awful lot of that laundry, but I want to show them a different way.
On that note, recently I had a lovely friend of mine just fleetingly say, God, you're so lucky. Because my partner, Ollie, does exactly what you've described, does his share of the load. And I just had to stop her and say, no, he's so lucky too, and I don't mean this in a man-bashing way.
No, I get what you're saying.
I love men, but there is absolutely an unequal playing ground that we are operating on. And somebody said the other day that the greatest man, the men that we are celebrating at the moment, saying he does his share, he's brilliant, he does X, Y, and Z, is generally where the average woman is. Yep. And that is not to denigrate or demonise or man bash at all, but it's to recognise that invisible load that women are carrying that greatness day in, day out and have been for centuries. Have you seen the statue of the woman described as how many women who stay-at-home mothers say, I don't work, she doesn't work? Do you know what? This statue has a woman holding the hands of her 2 children and it has everything carrying on her back, that invisible load, because she does work. It's not a recreational side hustle. It's not a little hobby on the side. It's not mummy just doing a little thing. You look at Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig, not to have a go at Daddy Pig, but he is not carrying much. Mummy Pig is doing it all. And I think it's time to equalise that and neutralise that.
Avengers, friends,
rebels, without a cause or with a cause.
Women. And Dr. Philippa, thank you so much.
Love you. Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce Boots Opticians frame buyer and style consultant. This is Jake Lawrence Barber. Jake, tell us all about how we can enhance these beautiful features. Is it even possible? You've got Anna here, you've got Dr. Philippa. What sort of frames should they be looking at?
Yeah. So for us, we always talk about frames being an extension of your personal style and really adding into your outfit as well. And today, what's really lovely is all 3 of you have got something in common with your frames. So you're all wearing frames that contain some level of crystal acetate. So, for example, when we look at Anna's, it's a beautiful beige brown tone. It goes lovely with obviously the outfit today. It matches into the leopard. I mean, it is a leopard day today.
I did have leopard on earlier.
Leopard is a neutral.
Your glasses.
Even your glasses say element of leopard, prove a Havana. So again, it really blends well with Anna's outfit, which is amazing. But what's brilliant is that warm crystal really helps to warm up Anna's naturally warm skin tone. Even though obviously naturally we sometimes look at blondes as tend to be cooler hair colour, your complexion is quite a warm undertone. So that helps.
Is it? Interesting.
Yeah, so it helps to just uplift and kind of naturally work with
Darling, you haven't seen me without makeup. It's not it's not such a warm complexion at 6 a.m. with 5 children to get to school. But
5.
Yeah.
We digress. That's the warm complexion.
But also that's another point of being a busy mum is that actually, sometimes you need frames that actually work for you. So the great thing here is there are no nose pads. So if you are someone who only wears glasses for reading, being able to, I mean, I never suggest anyone puts them on their head because it warps your frame.
Oh, I
However,
do that all the time.
Yeah, it's really bad
all the time.
So the top of your head is wider than where your glasses sit on your face naturally,
Yeah.
or well, most people's on average. That stretches your frame out. So that's why you often find after you've had a frame for a little while, it might start to feel a bit loose and a little bit wobbly. That's one big thing. So don't put them on top of your head. But what I will say is for a brief second where you need to just quickly do that, what's great about the frames you're all wearing today is no one has nose pads. It's that thing of being, when you put on a pair and they've got nose pads and you get them stuck in your hair and then you're fighting to get them out. It's like the chewing gum for adults, basically, of being stuck in your hair. So that's what's also great. Is they are great for being on, off, quick and easy. Also, everyone's got great lenses in. So everyone's got lenses that are quick and easy to clean. That's a big important thing as well. And, just taking those few seconds, it all adds up in a day.
And I think when you're really tired and you haven't got much time to get ready, like what's quite nice about glasses is you can just literally go, okay, that's a look.
Exactly.
That's it. Okay, haven't got the makeup on, haven't got the hair done, but there's a look. She's tried something and it takes 1 second.
That's it.
She's tried.
She's tried.
She did try indeed.
But it's an extension. It's a different way of changing your personality as well, in a way. Some days you want to be in charge and be bold, and you might not want that kind of crystal that warms in. You might want something that's really like stand out and bold. So like we've got an All Saints pair on the table we were putting on Anna earlier, which is really bold, really cat eye, bit more business. That might be your next meeting, when you're talking to someone, but actually day to day, it might be a bit too serious.
And these girls stand on business daily.
This is a bit more furious feminist for me. Like if I'm having that
go.
day, this is a bit more like mum's here, but she's got punch.
I like that. Dr. Philippa, where do you stand with healthcare when it comes to eyes? Because I think that it's one of those things that we don't really consider until we may be struggling.
So there's that phrase, the eyes are the windows to your soul, the eyes are the windows to your health. We can look in the back of your eyes and we can see signs of diabetes. Wow. We can see signs of high blood pressure. And actually, I think that we know that your optometrist is part of your local primary care team. You look after your teeth, you look after your eyes, you get your hearing checked, and that actually these need to be non-negotiables that you do, and you do regularly, not waiting until there is a problem, because it's always better to fix things before they're a problem.
That prevention better than cure, though. I think that it's just one of those things that you put off until there really is a problem, until your child's sort of bumping into things.
But if we think about the fact that, we want you to attend your cervical screening and we want you to attend your breast cancer check and all of those things, actually, and if you don't wear glasses, that you should still be having a regular eye check. Having those things in your diary as ways of looking after yourself are so vital. Because when we talk about self-care as having a flake in the bath, that is the minutiae. We've got to get the basics right.
And what do we say? A flake in the bath?
Like, have a nice bubble bath and a bar of chocolate.
Oh!
Right? Those are the edges. If that's the only thing that you need to make your life better, then that's brilliant, right? But actually, most of us need to focus on the basics. And the basics are, did you take your medicines today? Did you get your eyes looked at? Did you get your teeth checked? Have you had your blood pressure taken? All of those things. And that's why it's vital.
When it comes to wearing glasses, though, we have got busy women here. Is there a way that you can direct us as to what we should be going for?
Yeah. So, I mean, from my viewpoint, I think the big thing is we want to make sure you're fully covered. You want to make sure you've got everything covered in your arsenal so your eyewear wardrobe is easy.
Eyewear wardrobe.
That's what I like.
More than one.
More than one. So more than one for your style, your personality.
Do you have more than one?
Different days.
One pair of glasses. You have two. How many?
3.
You have three sets of glasses.
3 and the sunglasses. And that's because I've got distance and I've got 2 different varifocal. Because when you get older and you might be short-sighted and long-sighted, but I've got one that's just distance as well.
What have you got?
I go for one.
You're one.
I am a one-hit wonder.
One vision
Yeah,
woman.
like I want my signature look, and it takes me from school run to mum's night out seamlessly.
But that's the thing. There's other things that we can do there. So beyond just the frame, the lenses. So we've got things like transitions lenses now. So that allows the lens actually to go dark in the sun. So naturally
These.
Yeah.
Clever.
It blocks UV rays, which is really important for your eye health naturally. But on top of that, the fact they go dark in the sun also means that when you're outside, you aren't fishing around in your handbag to find your get your sunglasses out because I can't see. It just keeps it makes your life easy. That's what it's about. It's making your life easy while still being confident in what you're wearing. The other big thing is also, it's not just about keeping your glasses in order, it's about keeping them clean. And that's the thing, like we talked about them going on top of your head. It's also about making sure that they are fit for purpose. In a day, we want to talk about style, we want to talk about things, but everything we do with glasses, but also they are a vision correction aid, and being able to actually make sure that they look and feel great, but at the same time work properly is the most important thing. So keep them clean, keep them safe. When you take them off, please put them back in the case. The cases are also lovely nowadays. We have amazing cases. Some are made of leather and really interesting materials, and it is actually an extension of that premium product that you're buying into.
Jake, thank you. You've inspired us to get a glasses wardrobe.
Please. Thank you.
A huge thank you to all my guests on See What's Possible, showing that, well, anything is possible. And of course, thank you to you for listening.
Are your eyes tired from all the watching, scrolling, and swiping? Essilor Eisen lenses are designed to reduce visual fatigue from digital screens. Relax and protect your eyes with Eisen lenses by Essilor. Ask for Eisen lenses at your Boots Opticians.